All right, let's talk some communication with media. Um, I would like to quickly introduce myself once again. I am Krista. I am the co-founder of Truesix, content marketing and PR agency, where we help local startups and local innovations get the attention of international publics. So we've been doing this for 5 years now as a team. And I would like to start with a question. Who of you would like to see your startup, your product, or yourself get featured on Financial Times, or TechCrunch, or Forbes? Yep. All right, raise your hands. Yeah, most of you. I believe that's why you're here. And as I mentioned, I've been doing this for quite some time. I started in communication and media when, like 10 years ago. And over this time, my team and we've helped our clients as well as our employers to get featured on such publications as TechCrunch, Fast Company, Al Jazeera, The Star, The Next Web, Sifted by Financial Times, and many, many, many others. So my next question is why it matters. Why bother? Why invest your energy, your time in communicating with media? And why we all, at the end of the day, want this section on our website with all these big shiny media logos. And usually, it's either one or a combination of these reasons. First of all, is a matter of reputation. You want your company, you want your product to be perceived as serious and trustworthy. And if a publication such as Financial Times writes about you, it works like an endorsement that you are these things. And this further helps you when you're trying to attract customers, when you're trying to attract investors, talent, etc. It's also a matter of recognition within your own industry, in your niche, because within your peers, within your industry, you also want to be perceived as a serious business, not some kind like a hobbyist who's doing something just for fun, even though sometimes that is the case, but at the end of the day, you want the industry to take you seriously. It's also a matter of visibility. The most basic goal of media, of mass media, is to deliver news to the public. So whenever you're trying to get your product or your company out there, you're probably also striving for visibility, because you're hoping that, for example, if Financial Times writes about you, they will deliver your message to the audiences that you are interested in. And when you have reputation, recognition, visibility, it also, at the end of the day, we also want to make money, and we also hope that this will all translate into sales. Because, of course, who doesn't want to make money, right? And you need people or industries or businesses to buy from you so that you can continue building your business. So these are the reasons why you want to learn to communicate with media. And the next question is, when do you start doing it? If you ask me, the answer is yesterday, because it's never too early to start building your brand and to start building your publicity. It's a long-term game. Even if you don't have nothing, if you have nothing to show right now, if you have just an idea, you have just started out, even if you don't have like a crystal clear idea how your business is going to look at the end, you can start working on your own brand as a founder. Because especially at the beginning, you as a founder and your startup is basically the same thing. And I have a very, from the experience, an example which shows that it's important to build your own brand before you launch your own company. This is my co-founder, Julia. She's also sitting right there. And this photo was taken like in 2014 or so, when we were both working at Printful. I'm sure you've heard of Printful. Latvia's currently first and only one unicorn. At the time, well, we were hired to do marketing and PR, but what we actually did, we tried to do it, and we did a lot of experiments, and we learned a lot of things by doing. So whenever we tried something, we had like our success stories and failures. We would go out there to the community, just like I'm here standing right now, and we would share our success stories as well as failures. And Julia, she was like, yeah, okay, I can go on these community events, I can share my experience, I can run workshops, etc. So she was very active in the community, which further became our clients, which is startups. So over the years, she had built like this reputation of this PR girl who knows international PR. So when we launched Truesix 5 years ago, it was really easy for us to land our first paying customers, just because Julia has done her homework, and she did it for several years. And not only it was easy for us to land our first paying customers, we were also very often approached by different media to give interviews, to participate in podcasts or on YouTube shows, etc. So what I'm saying is, it takes time. For us, it took years to get the ball rolling. So yeah, my suggestion is don't wait. A classical mistake when companies approach us, they're like, okay, we are now raising a funding round. We really need to leave like a very good impression or an investor. Can you help us with publicity? We can, but it's too late. You should have started it much earlier. Or sometimes other clients are approaching us, okay, we are running out of money. We really need visibility. We really need to push our product out there and generate sales so that we can continue with our business. Again, way too late. Yeah, so the next logical questions, how do you do it? How you start working on your publicity for your company? And generally, it consists of two things. First of all, is understanding what media want, and then understanding what journalists want and need, and then learning to give them exactly what they're expected to receive. So let's start with media. What do media want? It's very simple, very simple. They want to serve their readers and stakeholders. They want their readers to be happy whenever they come to their either website or they buy their newspaper or watch their TV channel. They want to give them what they are expected to see. So that means basically providing them with consistent content of consistent quality and format. So the first lesson to take from here is just don't approach like TV channels with written articles. It just doesn't work like that. And of course, if journalists are serving their readers, and if the readers are happy, they would come back. It gives the opportunity for media to monetize their content, either through ads or, I don't know, through paid content and paywalls. And that makes stakeholders happy, and everyone is happy, and the media can stay in business. Journalists. What do journalists want? And the answer is inspiration. I am a freelance journalist myself, and inspiration for news stories is my biggest struggle. Imagine journalists are writing like tens, like 20, 30, some even more stories per month. And each of these stories must be interesting, relevant, exciting. So what they really need, they need inspiration for their next stories. And there are several ways you can pitch this inspiration to the journalists. Either you send them some news, you can pitch them story ideas and tips, Or if you don't have news or story ideas, you can always become the source for an article they're already writing. So let me explain in more detail. So what news can you have as a startup, especially a startup just starting out? Of course, launch of your company can be news, but here I would like to mention that just the fact that your company now exists isn't really like, no one cares. There are many companies being launched every day, so you have to find a way how to connect this with a bigger topic. Either you're solving some big problem that humanity is facing, or another option is start building relationship with the journalists early, update them about what is happening, what they are doing, build the interest over the time, and when you launch the company, then they will be interested in writing about you. Here's a classical example when we worked at Printful, and when the company launched, the fact the company was launched wasn't really interesting. But again, my colleague Julia had persistently worked on building relationship with the journalist who wrote this story and sent him updates about what is happening. So when we launched the company, he was already familiar with Printful. So yeah, basically he was ready to cover the story. Another big block of news that journalists are interested, fundraising rounds. Yeah, basically whichever news outlet you open, there will probably be such news over there. And of course, the bigger round you raise, the easier it will be for you to attract journalist attention. Big partnership, major hire, huge milestones. These probably come later in your journey, because I'm really talking about like, we just hired, Steve Jobs, or I don't know. So if you don't have like these typical news related to your company, you can always provide journalists with data. It's also a very good basis for a story. And by data, I mean research, learnings from your experiments, discoveries, reports. So all these different kind of information which is new, even though maybe someone else has written about something similar in the past, they probably don't have the same, results or the same learnings. So you can always, use your data. You can always also pitch story ideas and tips. From my experience, right now, what editors and journalists and media are most hungry for is just positive stories about businesses doing good things for the humanity. Like, we read a lot of negative news. So if you are pitching journalists something, they will probably prefer news that are something, my company is doing this and it helps people in this way. And another big block is human interest stories. This is about regular people doing unordinary things. Maybe you as a founder, maybe you are this regular people who are doing unordinary things. So think about yourself as well. And as I mentioned, if you don't have, story ideas or news, you can always become a source for a journalist who already has a story idea. The easiest way to find such opportunities is just go on Twitter. Journalists love Twitter. It's probably their favorite social media. There's even a specific hashtag which is called journal request, which is used by hundreds of journalists all over the world to post and find sources for their news stories. And this is just one of the many success stories, many examples where we found this opportunity through this hashtag. It was a BBC journalist looking for sources to comment on his story about pay transparency. And we just managed to connect him to one of our clients who could provide this comment, since in Latvia we have a mandatory law to show pay in our job ads. So yeah, basically what they're after: expert comments, your experience, and strong opinions on the topics they're already covering. Now, editors. You have to remember, editors rarely themselves write stories, especially in international publications. They assign stories to their journalist staff. They edit stories that they've been submitted, but they rarely write. So it's probably a better idea to approach journalists with story ideas, but then approach editors with a proposal to write a story yourself. And what they're after your expertise in your field, in your niche, in your industry. And there are many types of articles that you can write, such as opinions on trends. You, I don't know, notice some trend in the industry, you have an opinion, strong, controversial maybe, opinion on this trend. It's your chance to approach a media and offer it. And they are very open, especially if it's controversial. Analysis of new discoveries and data. That can be your own data. That can be data by someone else that you have strong opinions on. And your experience. I'm always saying that your experience, what you have tried, is your most valuable asset. No one else will have the same lessons learned. No one else will have the same, exactly same experience as you do. And especially if you can tie your experience with some bigger global trend, most of the time it's just a win. So, for example, you know what you want to pitch. You have a story idea, or you have news, you have an opinion. So the next question is, how do you pitch media? Through email. Nothing very original. Email is probably the communication channel most journalists prefer. So yeah, it's just a matter of writing an email. So how do your email should look like? You're pitching news, opinion, story idea. State that on your subject line. Journalists receive tens, sometimes hundreds of emails every day. Make them easier. Make them easy to understand what you have sent. Also, subject line is very, very important. In the subject line, you have to summarize your key idea, what you are pitching, or offer a title for the article that you're pitching. Again, journalists can quickly scroll down their inboxes and find the ideas, find the ideas and pitches they're interested in. Get straight to the point. No long introduction. No one has time for that. Just get straight to the point. What are you doing? Why? What's your idea? Etc. I will later share some examples of my own pitches. Yeah, and make it easy to scan through. Don't write big blocks of text because, again, no one has time to read them. All right, so here is one of my many emails and which I have sent. This is a news story. It says news in the subject line. Later, it summarizes what the news is about. Hi, always, if you can find specific people in the publication, pitch them. Maybe avoid, editor or news at whatever, because unless they have stated on their website, please don't pitch individual journalists. Send your pitches to these email addresses. Straight to the point. I want to share the news with you. Here's what happened. Here's the story in short. Use bullet points, bold some text so that to make them easier, just quickly scan through and grasp the key information from your email. It's also always very recommended to highlight why this story is relevant and why they should pay attention. For example, if your company or if you've done something big already, then it's worth to mention that just to catch the attention and interest of the journalist. Then, yeah, I copy your press release below, provide links to the images. Images are really, really important. They're really underrated as well. And finish with a question. Would you be interested? Let them know that you are waiting for them to do some action. Would you be interested? Let me know. So that when they read the email, they understand that something is expected from them. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, thanks for sharing. Nothing will happen. Yeah, looking forward to hearing from you. Another example where I'm pitching an opinion piece that I have written myself. Again, it says pitch in the subject line. It summarizes the title of my idea. Hi there, I'm introducing myself. This was ghost written, so I had to introduce myself. Otherwise, they would be a bit, confused. Summary, again, topic summary, bolded so that they can quickly scan through and see what, the most important parts of the email. My draft is available here. Would this be of interest to you? Again, always finish with a question so that they know that they are asked to do something. And of course, email is the most popular way how to communicate with media, but you can always also use Twitter. As I said, journalists love Twitter and they love to be reached out there, and also LinkedIn. But never, ever, this is like the red line, don't pitch them on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Those are for fun, for private communicating with friends. Journalists don't want to be bothered there with job questions. Unless there are, I think, 2 or 3 journalists who have said on their author bios that they like to be pitched on Facebook, but that's very rare. Or if it's a journalist who is a good friend of yours, then, I don't know, you do you. Call them, send WhatsApp messages, whatever. And if you receive follow-up questions, answer those. First of all, don't ignore the journalist if they're shown interest, and then answer the questions. If the question is yes or no, answer yes or no. If the question is summarize this or that, don't send them your paper and say that they can find the information there. Don't send them links to more information. No one has time for that. If they ask a question, answer that question. Period. So yeah, as I mentioned, I've been doing this for 10 years. It takes time and practice and consistency and a lot of no's, which you will definitely get when you start out. But just keep doing it and you will get better. You will understand what media want, and you will better understand the needs of the journalists. You will be better at defining ideas the journalists would like. And yeah, just keep doing it. And I think I finished a bit early,
yes,
but that leaves more room for questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Krista. Round of applause. So, Krista, before we open up the questions to the audience, I have one very specific question for you. We are from Latvia, which is a very small country. Perhaps we have some international guests here who are also likely from countries. My question for you would be, is there, and if there is, then what is the role of local media in getting your message out?
Yeah, even if you're very focused on international attention, my recommendation is never ignore local media. They're your friends. There will be very good contacts and good relationship with local media will help you in your further journey, especially when you're looking to grow your team. I think we have stories when our clients say, okay, we don't need to be on, Delphi, Latvia, because we are the big fishes. We want to be in Financial Times only. And then they kind of grow. They're starting to look for team members in Latvia. And then they're like, now we are friends with Delphi because we want them, you know, to write a story about us because we are looking for talent here in the local market. So my answer is be friends, be nice, even Latvia, even if Latvia is not your market.
I think one thing that also can be said is that the local media is often your first stepping stone. If you don't have huge international media experience or visibility, those first local stories will be your first experience. They will guide you through the process. This is the Labs of Latvia stage. We have Labs of Latvia journalists here with us. So if you have a story, then I think that you definitely have to take advantage of it and speak to our journalists here, who will certainly help you get that first visibility, which will then only help you in your next international endeavors. So, do we have any questions from the audience for Krista? Okay, question at the back there.
Hi, I would like to know what would be the best way for me to understand which is the best media or journalist in other countries. Yeah, because they have other platforms and yeah, how to find my niche journalists who write about my.
So my question that would be, do you read any international media outlets?
It wouldn't be so much international, but maybe some country specific, which I don't understand or speak in, but I want to start business or expand.
Yeah, it's just a matter of research. I don't have any more, yeah, do your research, Googling, see what media covers your industry. Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't have any more regional answer to you. It's just, yeah, research. We spend a lot of time on Google, on Twitter, yeah, searching by keywords, journalists for our clients, and yeah, or use ChatGPT. Ask them, like, can you suggest me 10 Swedish journalists covering artificial intelligence? They will give you some. Then you have to go and check them out.
Yeah, I think I would also emphasize that every outreach starts with a lot of research for that specific industry, for that area, for that story. Any other questions? We have Eva here.
That's how big this country is. We know each other by name, right? My question is like, should you pay for publication? You know, like I think all of us who is doing something in this world have received email, hey, you are nominated for like whatever. Pay us €1,000 and we will feature you in this no-name woman CEO. Is probably one of the most popular that all the female founders have ever received. So should I pay like, or like, okay, not that obvious spam, but like some other like publications?
It's definitely up to you. We never pay because then it's paid visibility. And as we all know, whenever you see, for example, media, especially high quality and reputable media, they have to specify that this is a paid content. Do you ever read paid content? Be honest? No, not really. You always, because you feel that there is something behind, there is agenda behind this story. There is going to be some kind of promotion. So we never pay to get our clients into media. It's always earned through work, research, and just understanding what stories they're looking for, and then just giving them exactly what they're after.
We had more questions in the front here.
Thanks. Very practical question. Where do you find email addresses of journalists you're trying to talk to?
Usually it starts with Googling the name of the journalist. Many of them, as I said, they love Twitter. Many of them have specified their email addresses on their Twitter bio. Some media, they have author profiles with email addresses. But yeah, just try Googling like Anda Asare email Labs of Latvia, and probably something will pop up. So yeah, it's again Googling.
Can you give some specific advice about PR for deep tech startups?
Start early. Somehow zoom out of your scientific mind, especially if you need to communicate. I think that was the previous speaker here, especially if you need to communicate with general public or people who are not particularly in your industry and not very knowledgeable. So yeah, I think the biggest challenge is just really zooming out and looking at their startups, at their solutions from the like normal people perspective.
And then we have one more question in the pink.
Okay, my question is, have you used like helpareporterout.com? And do you have like some tips or experience, and have you actually get something published in there?
Yes, we have. We still do. We have found that actually journal request, the Twitter thread, it works much better. Haro request is more for US audiences, US journalists. Basically, the key to the success is answering their questions. Again, don't offer them to have a call with you. Don't offer them read your, I don't know, article that you have written. If they are, especially if they have specific questions in their request, just answer them. Don't try to, provide them with more than they asked.
That being said, we have had some excellent success with Haro requests. We were even featured in Wired magazine.
That was journal request.
There we go. All right. Well, that is our time with Krista. Thank you again for joining us, and a round of applause.